I love the One Piece trading card game, and I love spending money on this game efficiently. Buying singles for your deck has always been the most cost-effective way of playing card games. But what if we just throw that all away? In this series, we aim to build a competitive One Piece deck using only official sealed product as well as trading. With a budget of only $30 a week, can we become the king of the pirates? This is One Piece from scratch. So after last week, I'm confident we have the minimum amount of tools to be at least somewhat successful, at least into non-black matchups. We boosted our total wins up from 1 to 4, meaning we can pick up 2 more commons and a guaranteed rare. Super cool, but let's address the elephant in the room. We traded the 9-drop Linlin to Max, the Lucci player from round 2 last week, and we got a nice haul in return. 2 Ishos, a Moria, and a Rebecca. Obviously, introducing strong cards into our deck gives us a notable power boost, but the additional fact that we've got more high-cost characters is a huge boon to the deck. And hopefully we can keep the ball rolling and find Deck Daddy Jack in our packs this week. Another day, another 6 packs. So, we are still on the hunt for Deck Daddy Jack. Well, you know, Deck Daddies with an S. We're also including Kaido, and let's be real, we'll throw Jinbei in there. He's daddied up enough. Any of those would help buff our deck. We're also going to be looking for any other cards that we could potentially add. As we mentioned previously, Who's Who is definitely going to be one of those cards that we're going to want to add. And also Trade Bait. Okay, let's go. So this is something that requires CP, so that's a no. Speed Jill. Cracker. Would never sell a comrade to the enemy. X Drake. Dawn times 1, this character gains +2 cost, and it's a 4 cost. So we actually don't want to play this because it doesn't get buffed by our stage, so 4 doesn't get pushed to 8. But interesting. We'll set it aside. That might be a later include, but probably not. The Shark Guy, Edward Weevil, It's to Die For, Gingdu, Jozu, and Dr. Kureha. Okay. Pack number 2. Hey, look at that. We got the Dawn. Very nice. Esper, BB, Jung Kingdom, Calgara, Burn Bazooka, Basil Hawkins. We'll throw him over here, but we're probably not going to play him. Charlotte Oven, Consulate, Sealed only Calgara. This is the second time we've pulled him. At this point, as soon as we get 50 yellow cards, we'll make it. It's not going to be good. And Wiper. Page 1.
The One Piece!
Oh, wait. Page 1. On play up to 1 ulti with a cost 4 or less from your trash. Oh, so we can get board spam, but it doesn't need to be in trash, but we can always use it as counter, because there is a black 4 cost vanilla ulti. Interesting, okay. And we don't have to Dawn minus like with the ulti page 1 combo back in the purple structure deck, so that is interesting. Hopefully we can trade that off. Pack number 3. Amazon Lily Girl, Tristan, Hamlet. That's a Play a Smile. Sparrow. The Chicken. Nitro. The Events. Throw that there. Robson. Garchu. That's the second time. 2 episodes in a row we've gotten Calgara leader and then King leader. Interesting. Dalton and Electrical Luna. We still have a lot of room to get some SRs. Hopefully Jack. We'd love to see a Jack. 20 Doctors. Moby Dick. Mushuru. This girl. The Event. Roddy. Charlotte Smoothie. X Drake. We'll throw them over here. Sheepshead. Dawn times 1. Your turn. Give all your opponent's characters -1 cost. That is kind of interesting. We'll throw it over here. Brule, Jozu, and King. 2 packs left. Not looking too promising, but there's still hope. There's still hope. Charlotte Angel. This girl. The Chicken. Tristan. This dude. Calgara. Hella Ceratops. If your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates, that is a no. Consulate, Southbird, Carrot, Sealed Only Carrot, Interesting. Cloven Rose and Nolan. Tragically dry on SRs right now, so we might not be getting any buffs. Not even any buffs to our trade binder, which is very unfortunate, but we got the Dawn there, so that's nice. Charlotte Cracker, 20 Doctors, Crickets, Smoothie, Giovanni, Onion Bear, Brulee, Scratchman, Apu, Blocker, activate main, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost. Okay, so we do have some cost reduction coming in, so this might be decent. We'll consider it, because currently the only cost reduction we have is the Nico Robin, but we'll consider these. Marco, Jozu, and Imperial Flame. Left card is the Dawn. So we did get both the Dawn. They were on the left side of the box. What is this Imperial Flame? Main counter, you may place 3 cards from your trash at the bottom of your deck in any order. KO one of your opponent's cost 2 or less. Oh, that does sound pretty decent. That is a little bit faster than our Usopp, but it's an event, so we don't establish a body. But interesting. Okay, we have some new toys to play around with. We'll see if they actually make it into the deck, but we are getting our hands on a few new things, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about updating our deck list. A lot of it stays the same, especially in our 2K lineup. We have 10 2Ks that are staying. We are cutting one of them, and we'll talk about that. But a lot of this is going to be the same. Let's talk about some of the cards that we are cutting. We're gonna cut the Gum Gum Giant Rifle. I found that in a lot of the black matchups, being able to reduce our only 8 costs on the field will not only turn our leader effect offline, or offline, yeah, correct, but it'll also turn this event offline. So in the grand scheme of things, against a very black dominant meta, this card's not going to be too useful. We're also going to cut a copy of Usopp and Jinbei. I found that these cards, while the Usopp is really good at popping 4 costs, it didn't really come up as much since we don't have any cost reduction, or at least a lot of it. And these cards are mainly just to stall until we get to the late game and then boost our characters up. And boosting a 3 up to an 8 is a little tough in terms of just trying to commit to it. And then once it goes down to a 7 versus Lucci, for example, it becomes very, very tough. Zoro, I found that I just wanted better options. Duval, I didn't end up seeing it. I don't think we really need it. I am going to be putting in better options other than Duval, so yeah. And then the popping event, I'm not going to read that, but I felt like it didn't really come up as often, but if there was a card that I would consider throwing back in, it would definitely be this card. So these 8 cards are getting cut, but 8 cards are going in. So what 8 cards are we going to be putting in? Well, first of all, we saw that we did make a trade for the 2 Ishos, Moria and Rebecca. This will definitely help out a whole lot, being able to get a high cost character on the board for our leader effect, and they have really good on plays as opposed to our rush. So being able to put these up to 9 with our leader effects will make them a little bit more resilient compared to just 8. So we really want to be seeing these cards, and then the Rebecca, of course, being able to fetch back any of our 3 to 5s, and then playing a 1 to 3 is going to be really good. These are really high impact, and I'm really glad we made this trade. Additionally, Isho is not in PRB, so picking up Isho here is really good. Moria is in PRB, and I'm not sure if we have Rebecca in PRB. I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but we do have a surprise method of getting a few more Rebecca. We'll reveal that in a few episodes from now. But I also wanted to include another copy of Rush Luffy. Every time I saw it, I felt like it was very strong. And there were instances where it was coming down to the wire, and had I just gotten one more Rush Luffy, I actually would have closed the game. So I think going up to the 3rd Rush Luffy is the correct play there. So during our last locals run, we went 3-1, so our cumulative wins is up to 4. That means we can choose 2 more commons and 1 rare. So the commons that I chose were the one-legged toy soldier. We're just going to round that out. We don't actually have a way to use Moria to put something out that's going to pop and then cost reduce at the same time. So I think just being able to put this out off of the 2 of Moria, and then next turn use it to cost reduced for Sanji is really good, and if it gets killed, then hey, it served as a blocker. So I think one-legged toy soldier for now is going to be a really good include. And our rare card of choice, is this even in frame? Going to be T-Bone. I think that's T-Bone going forward, especially once we get our hands on the Navy or the Smoker structure deck. Is going to be very strong. He's going to be a searchable 2K, and that's another character that can pop a 2K or less. So this is the list that we're going to be running for episode 3. We'll see how it does. Also, one final thing before I forget, we're actually also going to downgrade our Dawn to play the Dawn that we actually open from the structure deck, as well as our 2 Dawn that we opened from set 8. So hopefully throughout the series we're going to be hollowing out our Dawn, making them a little bit more fancy, but it makes sense that, you know, it's a from scratch series, so we're also going to get our Dawn from scratch. So coming into game 1 of 3, we're against Lucci, and we've established before that this is one of our toughest matchups. In the early to mid game, we only have enough to get up to exactly 8 cost for one of our characters, so Lucci swing being able to take our 8 cost down to 7 cost will turn off our leader effect mid-turn, so this is definitely going to be an uphill battle matchup-wise with how our deck is configured, but with the trades that we made, as well as throwing in the 3rd copy of the Rush Luffy, our late game should be a lot stronger. So we're going to at least try and make it to the late game, and then we're going to hopefully be in a pretty good spot. We do establish the stage pretty early on, so we are going to have cost +1 for all of our Straw Hat characters, not including the +1 from our leader effect. So we're feeling pretty good that we can at least bridge the gap between mid-game and late game. A little bit of a side tangent, but our opponent, Waffle House on YouTube, he had just resleeved this deck right before our game, so whenever he draws a card especially, you'll see his deck start to tip over, which is kind of funny. So back to the game though, we established the 5-cost Sanji, and in my head, Sabo was only protecting himself, so I tried to pop the Spandum, but again, Sabo does protect his whole field, so we did not get the pop there, which wasn't even a misplay. I would establish the Sanji anyways to try and turn our leader effect online, so we just didn't get to pop something. Since we did push our Sanji up to 9 cost with the Hercules, our Sanji was a little bit more resilient to Lucci's -1, so our leader effect was online throughout the whole opponent's turn. Passing back to us though, we're going to start with a 7k swing from Sanji into life. We're just going to be as aggressive as we can. Again, I think the way to approach this matchup as our deck stands now is to not think of our leader as a defensive leader, rather as an offensive leader where we get 1k if we have an 8k on the field, or an 8 cost, excuse me. And then we did use the 1 cost event to give our Sanji some extra cost, our active Sanji, not our rested Sanji, because if the rested Sanji gets attacked into, then our leader effect is going to be turned off without any cost minus effects. We do see Lucci use the Tempest Kick to minus our Sanji, and then Ice Age again to minus our active Sanji, so our leader effect is not only offline, but it is definitely going to get popped this turn. And then we do see the Brook -1, and then KO a 0 cost, so the Sanji goes down, but we did stick as an 6k leader for a majority of his turn. Back on my turn, we're going to start with swing 7 with the Sanji, and then establishing the 8 cost Luffy with Rush. Since he is now a 10 cost on the field, our leader effect is online, so we're going to start with swing 7 and swing 10 with that Rush Luffy. On our opponent's turn, he is going to be met with a decision tree with this Tempest Kick. Is he going to minus the Sanji or the Luffy? He does choose the Sanji, but let's talk about the Luffy for a second. If he does target the Luffy, it turns our leader effect offline, pushing it down to a 7, but choosing the Sanji will make it easier to remove a body on the field, which is exactly what we see. We see the Jack come down, draw a card, discard a card, and then trash our Luffy, or not, KO our Sanji. And coming back to our turn, I'm feeling pretty good that this Rush Luffy is going to be sticking on our board for a good while. He's a high statted 10 cost on our opponent's turn, so our leader effect is going to be online throughout the duration of our opponent's turn. That being said, we are still going to play the Hercules to boost our Luffy up by 2 costs. The Luffy is going to be the crux of our game plan to push for game, so boosting him up to a 12 is going to make him really sticky. It's going to either take a lot of Dawn to swing into our Luffy or a lot of cost reduction to do that. So we start to see the cost reduction, but not on the Luffy, on the Sanji instead. And with some of the resources from Lucci being used already in terms of cost reduction, we can tell that our leader effect is going to stick for the rest of this turn. We've got a 12 cost on the field with no cost reduction being hit with it. We do lose the Sanji here off of the Jack effect, which does hurt a little bit, but as long as we have this Luffy, we are feeling pretty good. we do see the Moria into Rebecca Spandam. And this play is going to be very defensive as well as value oriented. We're going to see that the Spandam grabs the Who's Who, the Rebecca grabs the Khalifa and then plays Spandam, and then this Spandam's going to grab the Spandine. So off of that, we know that our opponent has a lot of counter in hand. He just added 5k into hand, so we're confident we're not going to be pushing for game this turn. We're going to start with 1 Dawn on our Luffy and then swing in, and that is going to be a lot of counter out of hand. So we're going to keep it a little bit light. We're going to swing another 7 into life. That's going to be met with a 0 cost event with a trash. And we do see the Moria come down, so we have 2 high cost characters on the field with not a whole lot of Moria value per se, but the fact that we're producing bodies is what matters here. So Lucci is put into another decision tree. Does he want to be KOing the Moria with cost reduction or KOing the smaller bodies with something like Lucci and less cost reduction and leave the big body Moria on the field for the next turn? Ultimately, he does decide to KO the Moria, and we actually see a hilarious play here. Usopp's Dawn ×1 allows him to KO a 4 cost, so we could KO the Rebecca and then swing in for game very comfortably, so he's going to need to establish a Sabo, but the issue is he only had 2 cards left in deck. Playing the Sabo without playing that Lucci first would mean that he would go down to 0 cards in deck, and when it comes back to me, I can just pass my turn and I win. So he uses the Lucci to shuffle 3 cards back into his deck so he doesn't lose off of that. But from here, it's just going to be a numbers game. He's got 2 cards in hand, and I've got a lot of Dawn and 3 bodies, so it's going to be 9k, 9k, and then swing in. We actually take a game versus Lucci. Game 2, we see the pink mat. We're no stranger to Max's Lucci. So apparently tonight's just going to be the Lucci gauntlets, and unfortunately that is a uphill battle for us. This game kind of looks more like the typical song and dance that we saw at the last episode, where we can have just enough to get our character to an 8 cost in the early to mid game, but Lucci being able to swing and use his leader effect to put it to 7 cost is really just going to hinder our performance in this matchup. And we do see some of the pieces starting to manifest. We have the stage on 1 Dawn, Jinbei on 3 Dawn, and then we're going to try and establish the chopper, but the Jinbei gets popped by Lucci. Losing that Jinbei in the early mid-game really just means that we're not going to be able to achieve our game plan of boosting something at least to 8 during our turn to get that extra 1k on our leader. But we're also falling behind on board presence. We are going to establish the 4-6 chopper here, but we're already falling behind. Our opponent has the 4-6 Lucci that he can use to swing, as well as the leader swing to also minus our chopper, which does make it prone to removal. Our opponent does drop the Who's Who in an attempt to remove the chopper, but since we do have the stage up, he is going to be boosted to a 5 cost. Leader brings it down to a 4 cost, and Who's Who pops to 3 cost, so chopper's just barely out of the range. He told me that he didn't see a Dawn on our leader, so assumed that the leader effect wasn't online, but didn't see the stage. On our turn, we're just going to try and be as aggressive as possible. We're going to swing the 6 and then establish the Nico Robin, not to use it as cost reduction, but to turn on our leader effect to make him a 7k for our swing. And we do see the Ice Age getting used on the Nico Robin, so that Robin's definitely going to be removed, and it's going to turn off our leader effect for the turn. So we're already staring at quite the thick board. We have a 5k, 6k, 6k, and the Spandam in case we wanted to try and use one of our cost increasers to try and boost up one of our characters, but we do drop the Isho on our opponent, discarding the Moria as well as a Rebecca from hand. Seeing that Moria come out of hand makes me feel pretty confident that we'll make it back to the crackback, but as we see here, our opponent's just going to be very aggressive with these swings. He starts off with the leader swing to bring our Isho down to 8 cost, and then plays Suru to bump him down to 6 cost, so our leader effect's offline. And I have absolutely 0 counter in hand, so all these attacks are unfortunately connecting, and then he finishes the game off with a 7 swing from Spandam, and I have just enough to put my leader to 7, so GG's there. Pudding. It's another Dawn. It's nice. What the hell do you do? I'll read that later. So this week our judge was kind enough to give us a pack that actually had black cards in them that we could use. And there's actually a lot of stuff in set 5 that we want, namely the Rebecca, but as with our build right now, we'll honestly take a lot of the other good black support like Lucci, for example. And coming into round 3, we've seen the Jinbei mat before, and we've seen this King player before. Both of us missed our stages on curve, and here I used the Usopp as counter to play the Rebecca to get back Usopp and then play the Jinbei. I think I honestly should have played the Usopp there. It represents a little bit more of a threat, but we let the Jinbei go as soon as we see a 6k swing into it. I don't really want to use the Rebecca here to protect it, and I don't want to give 3k counter to try and protect it either. We do drop the Usopp, and we are able to boost it up with the event as well as the Horatius, and Horatius being able to let us draw one, discard one is also really good. And it also turns on our leader effect, so we see an 8k swing into life, and that does connect. Passing back to our opponent, we do see a pretty easy swing of the Searcher Queen into our Horatius, and of course we're not going to be dropping counter for that or using our Rebecca blocker for that, so we're just going to let him go down. And then I think that kind of starts to show some of the flaws with the 2Ks being the ones to be increasing our cost, outside of the Jinbei of course. And that's that it's a 2k out of hand, but it really only serves one purpose, and that's to boost our small to medium sized characters up to 8 cost. And when we do that, we're opening ourselves up to the smallest bit of cost reduction, bringing that character down below 8 cost. So as we continue our series, the thing that we need the most are more impactful 2Ks and stronger top end, and probably more things to hold us through the mid game. We did establish the Isho on our turn, and if that sticks, then we're going to feel really good. I do have multiple copies of Sanji in my hand, but unfortunately we do see that the Jack is going to pop it. Excuse me, that wasn't the Jack, that was actually the Kaido, and in addition to Kaido's effect, we're also going to be trashing a card from hand, and since we don't have that Isho established anymore, I decide we're just going to trash the Sanji. And we're really fighting an uphill battle. We don't have our stage established, we don't have any straw hats to give cost to if we did have any of our increasers in hand, and we don't have our 8 cost Isho on the field anymore. So the best we can do is swing 7, use our Sanji, pop the Queen, and then play a blocker. But we do see a second Kaido drop, and that's going to be popping our Sanji, so we're really behind on board tempo right now. And on top of that, I do make a misplay here. Instead of taking that life, I should have used the second blocker we had, the Nami, because I do play the Moria here. Had I blocked with the Nami, then I could have played Rebecca, and then off of Rebecca, we're going to grab the Nami blocker and then play the blocker. It won't be able to block since it's going to be rested off of Rebecca's effect, but it'll at least be able to draw us a card off of it. So unfortunately, the most that we can do is just use our Rebecca to grab back Jinbei, play Jinbei, try and establish a body, but we already see that our opponent's trying to go for game here. They drop the Who's Who to KO the Rebecca, and we just see a wide variety of swings here, finishing off with the Kaido, and that's GG's. Our final record this week ended at 1-2, boosting our total record to 5-5, so we're at least breaking even. We did snag a game off of our most difficult matchup, which is a large step forward in my books, but we're also quickly seeing how fast our game plan falls apart against black matchups. Whether it be through cost reduction and removal, if we can't get our leader effect online, or at least have body stick on board, we're in huge trouble. That being said, our trades for more impactful top end really helps combat both these issues. It's a shame that our packs this week were pretty dry with no major hits to contribute to our deck, or at least our trade binder, but hopefully that means the last half of this box is stacked. Oh! Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the series. If you're liking the content so far, drop a like, I would really appreciate it. And if you want to follow along with the series, also sub to the channel. I'm really excited for a lot of the new products coming out, like the structure decks and the PRB reprint set, so I hope you can enjoy them alongside me. Until then, love, kisses, mwah 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 mwah.